let me ask a question I think people are curious about when they look at a world-class leader and thinker such as yourself. As what books, technical, fiction, philosophical, had a big impact on your life? And maybe from another perspective, what books would you recommend others read?
So my choice, the 3 books, right?
3 books.
My choice is, so the one book that really influenced me a lot when I was starting out this company maybe 10 years ago, was GEB, Gödel Escher Bach. And I like everything about it, first of all. It's just beautifully written, and it's so old school and so somewhat outdated a little bit. But I think the ideas in it, about the fact that a few meaningless components can come together and create meaning that we can't even understand.
So
and
this
some
emergent
poetry.
thing, I mean, complexity, the whole science of complexity, and that beauty, intelligence, all interesting things about this world emerge.
Yeah, and
phenomena.
yeah, the Gödel theorems, and just thinking about like what even these even all these formal systems, something can be created that we can't quite yet understand. And that, from my romantic standpoint, was always just, that is why it's important to, maybe I should try to work on these systems and try to build an AI. Yes, I'm not an engineer. Yes, I don't really know how it works, but I think that something comes out of it that's, pure poetry. And I know a little bit about that. Something magical comes out of it, that we can't quite put a finger on. That's why that book was really fundamental for me. Just for, I don't even know why. It was just all about this little magic that happens. So that's one. Probably the most important book for Replica was Carl Rogers on Becoming a Person, and that's really. And so I think when I think about our company, it's all about, there's so many little magical things that happened over the course of working on it. For instance, I mean, the most famous chatbot that we learned about when we started working on the company was Eliza, which was Weizenbaum, the MIT professor that built a chatbot that would listen to you and be a therapist.
Yeah.
And I got really inspired to build Replica when I read Carl Rogers on Becoming a Person. And then I realized that Eliza was mocking Carl Rogers. It was Carl Rogers back in the day. But I thought that Carl Rogers' ideas they're simple, and they're not, they're very simple, but they're maybe the most profound thing I've ever learned about human beings. And that's the fact that before Carl Rogers, most therapy was about seeing what's wrong with people and trying to fix it or show them what's wrong with you. And it was all built on the fact that all people are fundamentally flawed. We have this, broken psyche, and this is therapy is just an instrument to shed some light on that. And Carl Rogers was different in a way that he finally said that, well, it's very important for therapy to work is to create this therapeutic relationship where you believe fundamentally in inclination to positive growth, that everyone deep inside wants to grow positively and change. And it's super important to create this space and this therapeutic relationship where you give unconditional positive regard, deep understanding, allowing someone else to be a separate person, full acceptance. And you also try to be as genuine as possible in it. And then for him, that was his own journey of personal growth. And that was back in the 60s. And even that book that is, that's coming from years ago, there's a mention that even machines can potentially do that. And I always felt that, creating this space is probably the biggest gift we can give to each other. And that's why the book was fundamental for me personally, because I felt I want to be learning how to do that in my life. And maybe I can scale it with these AI systems, and other people can get access to that. So I think Carl Rogers, it's a pretty dry and a little bit boring book, but I think
Would you
idea
recommend others try to read it?
I do. I think for yourself,
as a human, not as an AI.
As a human, it is just, and for him, that was his own path of his own of growing personally over years, working with people like that. And so it was work and himself growing, helping other people grow and growing through that. And that's fundamentally what I believe in with our work, helping other people grow, growing ourselves, trying to build a company that's all built on these principles, having a good time, allowing some people to work with to grow a little bit. So these two books, and then I would throw in, we have on our in our office when we started a company in Russia, we put a neon sign in our office because we thought that's
what you
recipe for success.
Yeah.
If we do that, we're definitely going to wake up as a multi-billion-dollar company. And it was the Ludwig Wittgenstein quote: "The limits of my language are the limits of my world."
Well, what's the quote?
The limits of my language are the limits of my world. And I love the Tractatus. I think it's just a beautiful.
It's a book by Wittgenstein.
Yeah, and I would recommend that too. Even although he himself didn't believe in that by the end of his lifetime and debunked these ideas. But I think I remember once an engineer came in 2012, I think, or 13, a friend of ours who worked with us and then went on to work at DeepMind, and he talked to us about Word2Vec.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw that, I'm like, wow, that's, they wanted to translate language into, some other representation. And that seems like somehow all of that at some point, I think will come into this one place. Somehow it just all feels like different people think about similar ideas in different times from absolutely different perspectives. And that's why I like these books.
The limits of our language is the limit of our world. And
we still have that neon sign. It's very hard to work with this red light in your face.